Welcome back to my StateTree tutorial. In this episode, we are going to look at adding some more states to our StateTree. First, we're going to look at adding a dead state. This just means that when the enemy dies, the StateTree immediately stops working. Next, we're also going to add an interrupted state, which means that whenever we hit him, the StateTree will also stop. The animation, the attacks, everything that will stop, making it more responsive. All right, let's get started. So let's open up our StateTree base enemy. Right where we left off, and off root, let's make another child state. And we are going to call this dead. Drag this to the top, right above select behavior. And now let's add a theme for it immediately. So let's just call this dead, make it black, and there we go. In this dead state, we want the tree to finish. We want it to stop working. So we're going to add a transition. And when we are in here, on state completed, we transition to tree succeeded. This just means that the entire tree says to itself, I'm done, I've done my work, and stops working. But of course, we only want to do this when our enemy's HP reaches 0. So we're going to add an enter condition. We are going to add a float compare like we have in the past as well. We are going to say our left in is our actor's current HP, and the right is just 0. And we are going to ask if the actor's HP is less or equal than 0. Now we have this enter condition, and we won't go in here unless the enemy is actually dead. But of course, now we are looking at all these states, and all these states are going back into each other. Now, up until an attack misses, or we don't find a strafe location, or we finish our move to strafe location, we will never go back to the root, which means we'll never actually check again if we are dead. So we need a way to make sure that the second our enemy's HP reaches 0, we transition into dead. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on root, we're going to add a transition, and then we're going to say on tick, we transition to dead. This just means that every single tick, we are going to check if our enemy's HP reaches 0. All right, so let's test this out. Compile, save, let's play around with it. Let's again open our debugger as well so we can see it. And now you'll see that if we open the StateTree and we kill our enemy, the StateTree goes into dead, it doesn't do anything anymore, and it's done. That's exactly what we wanted. Now, for example, if we were to disable this dead state, as you might have noticed if you were playing around with the enemy before this, so right here, when we kill the enemy, he's still in attack state, moving through, trying to do things. His body's even still twitching because he's doing animations. And there's all these things still happening. And you can even have it where an enemy dies, but he's still actually running attack logic. And he might still deal damage or those things. And that's why we added this dead state. So let's enable this again. Next, we're going to once again click root and add a child state. And we are going to call this interrupted. In this state, we want to go whenever our enemy gets hit and we want to interrupt any logic currently going on. Are you moving to a strafe location? Are you currently attacking? Are you running? Whatever happens, we want to stop doing that. Again, the Unreal template already has some pre-existing things for this. So let's add a child state and call this wait for landing. And next, we're going to add a child state that is wait after landing. Now, the reason we're calling it this is because this Unreal Engine template comes with a couple setup tasks that use the grounded boolean on the character to see if he is currently being hit. Whenever we hit our enemy, he's being launched into the air. And we can use this to see whenever we are getting hit and whenever it's done. But we only want to be able to enter the state whenever the enemy is actually in the air. So we're going to add an enter condition. Right here, you'll see one already exists. Character is grounded. It's really important right here as well, must be on air is ticked because now it's actually checking if our enemy is in the air. If we are in the air, then we wait for the landing. So we're going to add a task and you'll once again see that there's one already made for us, wait for landing. This character context actor, if you open this up, might be set to something else for you, but all you have to do is change the variable here to our BP enemy base, and then from there it will work just fine. So back in wait for landing, if we have successfully waited for it, we want to transition to wait after landing. And on this, we're just going to set a delay task. So we're going to add a task, delay task. Let's say 0.3 seconds with an 0.2 random deviation. And this just goes back to the root. And this is all that we need for our interrupting of tasks. But now, just like with dead state, the same question arises. How do we tell the enemy to actually be interrupted to go into this state whenever we want it to? Now, the way we're going to do this, by going on select behavior, we're going to add a transition, and on the tick, we want to transition into interrupted. So now, if we are in any of the behaviors underneath select behavior, we can be interrupted. So if there's any behavior you don't want to be interrupted during, you can also put that under a different task that doesn't have this transition to interrupted. And from there, you can't be interrupted during those things. Later in this tutorial, we'll be making an evading state where the enemy dodges, but I don't want to be able to interrupt the dodge. So that won't go under the same behavior. Next up, before this will actually work, there's one change we're going to have to make inside of the BP enemy base. So open it up and zoom out, and then we want to go right here at the top of enemy damage and def, event apply damage. So whenever our character applies damage to the enemy, you'll see that this bit of blueprint already exists. It takes its combo attack montage and its charge attack montage, and it stops them whenever it's interrupted. Whenever we're taking damage, it immediately stops it. But we are not using these two preset variables, so we're going to have to create our own. So create a variable, we call this current attack, and we're going to make this of type anim montage, object reference. And we're going to get this, and we are going to delete the last part, delete the combo attack, plug in our current attack, and just connect this back up. And now our current attack will get stopped whenever we get hit, but this current attack is currently empty. We need to set this. So let's open up our attack task. In our attack task, we're going to use the random array item here to set to that variable we just created. So we're going to drag off character and type set current attack. We're going to hook that up in here. And this becomes the montage to play, and this gets hooked up to there. And now whenever we hit our enemy and it takes damage, it will interrupt and stop our current attack. So let's test this out with the debugger again. Compile, save, start playing. Let's open up our state tree, and now you'll see that when he's in an attack and I hit him, he goes into uninterrupted. He waits a second and he goes out of it. If he's strafing, I can interrupt him out of it. Let's jump back into our state tree, and of course, one more thing, let's add a theme for this. So let's go for a darkish purple. Let's give this all the theme, and we'll call this one interrupted.